Okay, so in the last video we covered SteamOS and how you can turn your home PC into a console and pretty much play all your Steam games from your couch. In the video I also mentioned why I wouldn't recommend using SteamOS for something like this. This here is the GPD Win 4. It's a very cool handheld manufactured by a Hong Kong company, and it has a built-in keyboard that slides out. So you basically have your full keyboard there. You also have access to a little trackpad here. So keyboard mouse, when you want to do keyboard mouse things, and for the rest of it, it just works like a handheld. I used to run Bazite on it. Bazite is a fantastic operating system. For the longest time, and including now, while waiting for Steam to roll out the official release that works across various devices, Bazite actually went ahead and added support not just for PCs, but for handhelds. They've done a lot of extensive testing. The community has done extensive testing on this. And so, given that they supported the manufacturer of this device here, I was able to just click that, select the SteamOS like desktop and just download the image. From there, it was like installing any other operating system. So I decided, okay, I've been running Bazite for a while. Why don't I try SteamOS? I did. SteamOS was fantastic. SteamOS, in fact, ran a little better. If I'm being honest, but SteamOS had one issue. So when I was running SteamOS, the issue was that there was no way for me to access the quick access panel from the right. Usually you are able to access it by holding the Steam button down and then simply pressing the A button. That doesn't show up as an option here, as you could see in the Steam button shortcuts. So what you have to do is you have to pull out the keyboard or plug in a keyboard if your device doesn't have one and use Control and 2. The issue here is that this Control 2 doesn't work in game. Whether it's a Steam game, whether it's a game that you're playing through Heroic Launcher, it doesn't matter. It doesn't work. And in order to make it work, you have to basically pull up the Steam menu, like you normally do using that menu button, then use the keyboard to access the menu from the right-hand side. And that will actually let you access things like the brightness toggle. It's unfortunate, right? And that definitely should have been the sign for me to uninstall SteamOS. But something interesting happened. You see on Bazite, when you put it in sleep mode, and sleep mode is basically you are taking the game that you have. Let's say the game is running. So the game's running here. Sleep mode is just pressing the power button, and that is just going ahead and putting the device to sleep, right? When you wake it up on Bazite, you usually have a noticeable battery drain. And I got into the habit of just, if it's been 2 days, plug it in. If it's been 2 days, check it, see if there's about 50% battery left from when you last played the game, play some more and plug it in. That was not the case. See, when I did the same thing, I actually didn't lose a lot of battery on SteamOS. I was in a part of the game where I didn't want to save, and I was able to just pull up the game and have a very little battery drain. Having that tiny battery drain was actually a game changer. That actually made it where I could keep playing without having to charge the device, which I think changed the game entirely for actually relying on this device as a handheld instead of just being a secondary device. See, I love my Steam Deck. I played a lot of games on this. I have installed Forza on this, but I don't play Forza Horizon 6 on this because, frankly, the Steam Deck is not capable of giving you a very good experience with newer AAA titles. The GPD Win 4, on the other hand, has been a fantastic device for playing these games. But I was always unsure about the battery life. I was always unsure if I could just, lock the game in the middle of whatever it is that I'm doing, put it in my backpack, go somewhere, and then play there. That was something that I could do on the Steam Deck that I couldn't do on this device. However, SteamOS changed that. And even though accessing something like the brightness slider is a bit of a deal breaker, because I need to, pull up one menu to open the second, it's honestly not been a deal breaker enough for me to move back to Bazite. And I think that's where the future holds, right? I think SteamOS, as they roll it out, as they improve testing on other handhelds, will probably be the go-to operating system for me. I might even hold on to the copy of SteamOS on this and let it update to see if over time, the updates fix things like that. That's been fantastic. A second thing I want to talk about in this video is this beautiful, beautiful application called Heroic Games Launcher. I mentioned that I'm a big fan of owning my games, and the only website I know of where I can buy my games DRM free and own them is Good Old Games. Unfortunately, Good Old Games is not necessarily tailoring towards Linux users, at least from the game installation perspective. See, they have an application called the GOG Galaxy. GOG Galaxy is a pretty cool application that works on Windows and Mac. I think they have controller support, but to install this on a Linux machine, you need the Windows executable. You need to copy it over. Now, I'm all about the friction-free way of playing my games, and this is a lot of friction. So I discovered Heroic Game Launchers. You can just get this on the store. So if you just switch to desktop mode, pull up the store, the in-app, in-device app store, you can get Heroic Games Launcher. Once you do, you just sign in to your GOG account. And once you've signed into the GOG account, your entire library just shows up there. And you can just download and play your games. It even lets you browse the store and make purchases from there. So it kind of makes the entire experience seamless, and it's controller friendly. Heroic Games Launcher actually has a console mode. And what this allows is once you've installed your games, you can set it up where the launcher itself shows up on your Steam Big Picture mode. Once you do that, you can just boot straight into console mode, select the game you want to play, and play it. You can even exit out of console mode, and it still lets you have full controller support. So you can just go to your library and install another game. This, I think, was a game changer for me because for the longest time, I felt like Steam is great and SteamOS is great, but Steam was still kind of locked behind DRM. There were some games that don't use the more invasive DRM, but every other Steam game still does have Steamworks DRM. So I guess in conclusion for this video, I'd say if you want to use SteamOS or Bazite, go for it. If you're someone that doesn't really care about things like TDP settings or some of that advanced nerdy stuff, and are okay going into the system settings to reduce brightness, I would recommend just going ahead and installing SteamOS on your handheld. It honestly makes this device feel more like my old PlayStation Portable than it ever did. When I first got it, I definitely had that experience. Unfortunately, the downside was I wouldn't take it places, or at least if I would charge it up and shut it down. And I had the habit of shutting down my device. However, now I think it has that experience of just locking the screen or kind of putting it into sleep mode and just taking it places, man. I think that's a great experience. Obviously, if you like this video, like, comment below. It really helps the channel. Subscribe if you want to see more videos in these topic areas. I'm trying to cover more topics around ownership of your games, trying to build systems that help you own your games and also have the conveniences of sitting on a couch and playing them. And and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.